Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are in the world. I am just Mike. You are watching and you are listening to episode number 48 of the Rock Out Wild Show, where it is not just a show, it is a way of life. Now, if you haven't done so yet, and if you are new to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below this very video. You can also like or dislike this episode of the Rock Out Wild Show and spread the word. Hit that share button and tell everyone you know, from your family to your friends to your coworkers to your acquaintances. Tell everyone about the Rock On Wild Show and share this episode on all of your social media platforms, whether if it's Facebook or X or Instagram or YouTube or what have you. Tell everyone about episode number 48 of the Rock On Wild Show. Now, I have covered a lot of things in the span of 47 episodes. I covered things from movies, music, television, and some personal stuff like job interviews and soul searching and things of that nature. I have never done a sports main event until now. As you see from the title of this very episode, according to the website from TSN, I will be ranking their best World Series matchups since the year 2000, when we will make it up to you. So that will be the main event of this very episode. Also, today is November the 28th, as this will be aired. So I will be taking a look at, well, actually November the 26th, I should correct myself. So for this episode of the Rock and Wild Show, I'll be looking at on this day for November the 26th in music, film and television, wrestling, and sports. And to kick off episode 48 of the Rock Out Wild Show, I'm going to react to an old movie review of mine. So I am going to start my webcam and say hi to everyone watching this episode right now. Or if you're watching the replay later on sometime in the not so distant future or the very distant future. So, what movie review am I going to react to? Well, this movie stars Ethan Hawke, and it's a movie called Predestination. This one came out early 2015, and now this is the start of me reacting to my past self from 2015 and onward. All the 2015 movies are now coming up until I get to the awards of 2015. At least that's my hope. So, let's present, share screen, and let's go to the review. Make sure the audio is on. Let's see. I want to go full screen. And let's react. In 3, 2, 1, action.
You know when a movie does its job, and does its job well, when you still have people talking about it on the discussion boards. What a mindfuck. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up and how's it going, all movie fans in the movieverse? Welcome to the Mike McRock Movie Review Show. Right now I'm going to review a movie, and it is called Predestination. And holy crap, what a mind-bending experience this movie was. And
Yeah.
I have to say, for January movies, this was really, really great. And it's nice to see that, it's one of those things where you see a lot of movies that come out in January and they're all really bad. Finally, this one breaks that cycle,
Yep.
and that is Predestination. And this is one of those movies where I really can't spoil a lot because there's certain things that I just can't tell in case if you do go see this movie. So I'll try not to spoil even to the tiniest of detail when it comes to the plot and the story. But what I will say about this movie is that Ethan Hawke's character and what his role and what he has to do in this movie is that he has to prevent future crime from happening. And there's all these time traveling, mind bending elements that work really well. I like in this movie.
So in a way, it's kind of like the new Minority Report of the 2010s, sort of. I guess you could compare it to that.
That a lot of it is unexplained and it's left to the imagination, and that I really did like. Ethan Hawke in this movie
Yeah,
I thought was absolutely incredible. He can never do no wrong when it comes to choosing movies, besides one that just came out not too long ago that I didn't watch. Yeah. I'm not going to go any detail into that, but
I
when
don't
it comes to
remember.
Ethan Hawke and his choices in movies, I think he chooses wisely, and I think that Ethan Hawke is definitely one of the most consistent actors in Hollywood today. Now, even though I like Ethan Hawke, he was great in this movie. To me, the standout in this movie was Sarah Snook. I think she gave an Oscar-worthy performance in her role, and I really like her
Mhm.
character arc as the movie progressed in the movie. But again, I cannot spoil anything. You just have to watch it to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And what I like is that how this
I should mention, I don't remember Sarah Snook much in this movie. I would actually like to watch this film again.
movie kind of started. You know, you have the whole
Okay, before I continue, I'm going to make a. I don't remember my points that I gave for this, so every movie from now on, including this, I'll throw in a prediction of the amount of points out of 100 I give for each movie. So for this one, Predestination, my guess is that I gave this 93 out of 100 points. That's my guess.
thing where person walks into a bar and the person sits down and tells the bartender a story, and the dialogue between Sarah Snook and Ethan Hawke was so riveting. It just held on to me. It grasped me, and I was hooked from minute one, and it hooked me from the entire movie on. It's rare to see a movie that doesn't have a lot of action in it to really hook me, and this one really did.
Yeah.
And I like that this movie had a lot of different elements in this movie as well. You know, there wasn't a lot of action. There was some action. There were some sci-fi elements that were kind of left unexplained, which I like.
Mhm.
And just the psychological aspect to this movie was definitely outstanding. Again, it's a mind-bending type of thriller, kind of like Inception.
Yeah,
And
I
in
agree.
this movie, you
I agree.
have two great actors in Sarah Snook and Ethan Hawke. And like I said, the way that they talked back and forth was absolutely brilliant. It was very smart dialogue. It was a very smart, beautiful movie that was well directed and well acted. It was one of those technically polished movies that just looked outstanding. The way the cinematography was done,
Yep.
it was just one of those movies where you just want to know more of, especially the way this movie ended. Now, I won't talk about that. Now, you see movies that have that ending that has a really good payoff, a movie that has a satisfying ending that leaves you saying, yeah, that was a great ending. But
Yep.
with this movie, it was kind of like one of those endings where, okay, is that it? I mean, it was just one of those endings where the movie was just starting to get really going, and I mean hitting its climax, even though the climax happened at the end of the movie. But it's just one of those things where I would have liked to see maybe 30, 45, or even another hour of this movie take place and have that satisfying ending. But
Mhm.
ending this movie on a killing it while it's hot note, leaving you wanting for more, leaving you on the edge of your seat, wanting to explore this world a lot more. was just absolutely amazing. And it just left me.
I will say this too. I think that they should have had an extra 20, 30 minutes to this movie now, because looking back at it in hindsight, there was no sequel to this. There was no prequel or nothing, a spin off to this movie at all. So thinking back here, maybe they should have added that extra something to make it a lot more satisfying, even though it already was satisfying.
Wanting for more. I wanted to know more on this movie. This is a
Yep.
movie I'll probably see multiple times, and I probably will not get the entire movie. It's just one of those things. If you see a plot hole, you could probably take it apart, piece it apart, trying to place all the time frames, how it started, where it ends, and all stuff like that. And it's just, oh man. But my only little nitpick is that it was a little obvious with one thing that happens throughout this entire movie. With this entire movie, and it has to do with the fizzle bomber. I kind of had that figured out, but there were other twists and turns that I just did not see coming at all. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, what the hell? I mean, this happened, okay, this happened, and then I'm like, oh no, I have a headache. What a serious mindfuck. And I loved it. I love when a movie gives.
It is rare for me to swear at all, using like dropping that F word, but when I say that, it means something.
Gives you one of those mind fucks that you just don't want to fuck with. It will give you a headache trying to figure out this movie from start to beginning, from start to end to God knows what. I mean, I can see the postings that people post on the discussion boards on IMDb talking about and trying to explain this movie. Oh man, like I said in my intro, you know when a movie does its job and does its job well when it has people talking about it still after this movie, and I think this done a tremendous job. This was
Yeah.
a good way to start out the year, unlike Taken 3, and I will
Yep.
say that Predestination delivered 93 points out of
Holy
100.
crap, I
My
was
only
right.
little nitpicky issue with this movie I had was that maybe the movie could have started with the bar scene, but I'll just leave it at that. But like I said, this movie was an outstanding piece of masterpiece of mind bending. I don't know. Now I'm mind bended as hell talking about this movie. But if you saw Predestination, what did you think about it? Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below, and you can also hit that's a blah, blah, blah. You know what? I'm mind fucked, but I can't speak right now.
Good one, Mike.
And you can also hit that subscribe button as well to get McRocked.
So that was my reaction to my old movie review from just over 10 years ago, Predestination, starring Ethan Hawke. And I should tell you about something. I saw Ethan Hawke roughly around 10 years ago, back in October in 2015, where he was on the set for Maudie. So I have a little bit of an attachment there. And oh my God, I was right on the points. I knew I was right on the money with that one. So that is my little bit of a retrospective there, and that was my reaction to my own movie review for Predestination. Now let's get into some of the things that happened on this day for November the 26th, and we're going to kick it off with some music here. So let's share screen, and let's see what happened in the world of music on this day for November the 26th. Hang on just one second. Yeah, the 26th. Perfect. All right, here we go. So let's see what we have here. The Sex Pistols declare anarchy with their debut single. On November the 26th, 1976, the Sex Pistols released their debut single, Anarchy, in the UK. The foundational punk song, which later appeared on the band's album Nevermind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols became an anthem for disenfranchised youth around the world, marking the group's only release under EMI Records. They were dropped 2 months later after a profanity-laced appearance on live TV. The influential track peaked in the UK Top 40 and would later be covered by the likes of Megadeth and Motley Crue. In more recent decades, it has ranked on both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll lists, as well as on the Rolling Stones' 500 greatest songs of all time. In 1958, Johnny Cash scored a top 20 hit on the Billboard Country Chart with his debut single, Cry, Cry, Cry. Originally released in 1955, the song was included on his 1957 debut LP, Johnny Cash with his hot and blue guitar. His following 7 singles would all land in the chart's top 10. In the year 2000, the Beatles won a collection of the group's number 1 hits, fittingly topped the Billboard 200. The album followed suit in the UK, South Korea, Australia, and across Europe, and eventually was declared the world's best-selling album of the decade. In 1968, Cream played their final concert at London's Royal Albert Hall. The trio's performance, also known as the Farewell Concert, was broadcast by the BBC a year later. In 1973, the New York Dolls played their first UK show at Biba's Rainbow Room in London. In 1967, more than a decade before the launch of MTV, a promotional video of the Beatles' Hello Goodbye aired on the Ed Television show. That I should trademark. The visual, which featured the band performing their song in their Sgt. Pepper's outfits, was not shown in the UK due to musicians' union rules. Let's take a look at some of the birthdays in music for November the 26th. We have The Woman That Keeps On Turning and Proud Mary Keep On Burning. Born in 1939, Tina Turner. Born on this day, November 26, in 1944, Jean Terrell from the Supremes. From Fleetwood Mac, John McVie was born on 1945. From Matchbox 20, Adam Gaynor was born on this day in 1964. Born in 1967, John Strait from Wilco. Ron Jones from the Flaming Lips was born on this day in 1970. Natasha Bedingfield was born on November 26, 1981, and born in 1990, November the 26th, is Rita Ora. And those are all the big highlights in the world of music for November the 26th. Now, let's take a look to see what happened in film and television for Wednesday. Well, not for Wednesday, but for whatever day it all lands on for every year for November the 26th. In 1922, first successful Technicolor movie, The Toll of the Sea, premieres at the Rialto Theater in New York City. In 1928, Philip Barry's play Holiday premieres in New York City. In 1942, Casablanca, directed by Michael Curtiz and starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. That will never get old. It never will. That premieres at Hollywood Theater in New York City, Academy Award for Best Picture 1943. That's right, Humphrey Bogart. Special shout out to you, you know who you are. In 1943, MGM releases Lasso 9, Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney movies. Girl Crazy, a failed adaptation of George Gershwin and Ira Gershwin's stage musical. In 1945, Brief Encounter, based on Noel Coward's one-act play Still Life, directed by David Lean and starring Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard, is released. In 1953, KBOI, now KBCI TV Channel 2 in Boise, Idaho, begins broadcasting. In 1953 also, WJHL TV Channel 11 in Johnson City, Tennessee, begins broadcasting. In 1955, Sandy Wilson's musical The Boyfriend, featuring the Broadway debut of Julie Andrews, closes at Royal Theatre, New York City, after 483 performances. In 1956, TV game show The Price is Right, hosted by Bill Cullen, debuts on NBC. In 1957, WCVB TV Channel 5 in Boston, Massachusetts, begins broadcasting. In 1972, a bomb explosion at the Film Centre Cinema in O'Connell Bridge House in Dublin, Ireland. In 1976, Ringo Starr released the single Hey Baby. In 1977, Verizon, claiming to be the representative of Ashtar Galactic Command, takes over Britain's television for 6 minutes at 5:12 p.m. In 1990, first Billboard Music Awards, MC Hammer and Janet Jackson win. Can't touch this. In 2013, due to a street tirade captured on video, Alec Baldwin's show Up Late with Alec Baldwin is canceled after only 5 episodes. In 2018, DC superhero film Aquaman, directed by James Wan, starring Jason Momoa and Amber Heard, premieres in London. And no, we don't talk about Amber Heard ever again. We don't. And those are all the things that happened. Of course, Amber Heard gets the last word for On This Day in Film and Television for November the 26th, and I'm sick to my stomach thinking about it. Anyway, moving on. Now let's take a look at some of the things that happened on this day in the world of professional wrestling, brother. Let's see, we got a picture here of Diesel and Bob Backlund. One guy I think is cool, and the other guy I can't stand. If you know which one is which, 1,000 points to you. In 1987, the very first WWF Survivor Series came from Richfield Coliseum. It was built as the base event WrestleMania 3. It was the second pay-per-view to be added to the annual WWF calendar. In the main event tag team elimination match, Andre the Giant's heel team of Butch Reed and John Bundy, one man, and Rick Rude, were victorious over WWF champion team of Bam Bam Bigelow, Del Morocco, Ken Petra, and Paul Orndorff. Also, the card was a fully 10-on-10 tag team elimination match, which featured teams such as the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, Strike Force, the Fabulous Ruse, Demolition, and the Hart Foundation. In 1987, this was the first year that the NWA Starrcade did not come from the Greensboro Coliseum. Instead, Chicago was the location, and the event was billed as Chi-Town Heat, with the card featuring 2 steel cage matches. In the main event, Ric Flair defeated Ron Garvin for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And in the semi-main event, Dusty Rhodes defeated Lex Luger for the United States Championship. Also, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard retained the NWA tag team titles against the War Warriors. Nikita Koloff defeated Terry Taylor to unify the NWA and UWF World TV Championships. And the Rock and Roll Express were victorious over the Midnight Express in a Skywalker's match. In 1988, Tito Santana and Greg the Hammer Valentine fought to a draw for the Intercontinental title in the main event of a WWF house show in Madison Square Garden. In 1994, at now historic WWF Madison Square Garden house show, Diesel won the WWF Championship in 8 seconds from Bob Backlund. Right, too. Just kidding. I just Bob Backlund. I'm sorry, I don't. 3 days after Backlund won the title from Bret Hart in San Antonio at the Survivor Series. Also on the card were 2 trial matches for the upcoming Royal Rumble in Tampa. Hey yo! Razor Ramon retained the Intercontinental title against Jeff Jarrett. And in the main event, The Undertaker gained a pinfall victory over Erwin R. Shyster, who's now known as, well, also shortened for IRS, and the father of Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas as well to add. In 1995, woo yeah, dig it! Macho Man Randy Savage Leslie eliminated a one-man gang to win the 60-man Battle Royal in the main event of World War III from the Norfolk Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. In the year 2000, when We Will Make It Up to You, the second and final WCW Mayhem took place at the U.S. Cellular Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Three titles changed hands on the night, when the first being General Rection defeating Lance Storm for the United States Championship. General Rection. I almost wanted to say General Erection, but I see what I read there. Later on the card, the Insiders, Kevin Nash and Diamond Dallas Page, snatched the WCW Tag Team Championship from the Perfect Event, Chuck Palumbo and Sean Stasiak. In the main event, Scott Steiner became the Penultimate, I guess. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, correct me. The WCW Heavyweight Champion before the company itself folded when he defeated Booker T in a straitjacket match. In 2001, on WWF Raw, the week after Survivor Series, The Undertaker turned heel in a segment with Jim Ross and Vince McMahon that led to Taker forcing JR to induct himself into McMahon's Kiss My Ass Club. And we know where he got that from. Need I say more? In 2006, WWE presented the Survivor Series at Wachovia Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The event played host to the final match as a full-time competitor of WWE Hall of Famer Lita, who lost to Mickie James. In the most notable elimination match, the team of Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Jeff Hardy, CM Punk, and Matt Hardy completed a clean sweep over Edge, Randy Orton, Mike Knox, Gregory Helms, and Johnny Nitro. And there's one hilarious elimination when Shawn Michaels eliminated Mike Knox. It was amazing. In 2020, on NXT UK, A-Kid became the first winner of the Heritage Cup, defeating Trent Seven in the tournament final by 2-1 in 7 rounds. And just to note there, A-Kid became Axiom. Here's some notable wrestling birthdays in wrestling. We have Bobby Shields, born on this day in 1981. Hi guys, Maven here. Maven, born on this day, November the 26th, 1976. Born in 1966, Brian Lee. And Ivory was born on this day in 1961. Those are all the things in the world of professional wrestling for November the 26th. Now let's take a look on the final installment of On This Day, and we'll be here all night. It is for sports. So let's go. Let's not waste any more time here. In 1905, first Australian Championships men's tournament, Melbourne, Ronnie Heath beats Albert Curtis 4-6, 6-3, 6-4, and 6-4. In 1910, CFL Grey Cup, AAA grounds, Hamilton University of Toronto Blue Jays retain title, beats Hamilton Tigers 16-7. In 1917, NHL forms with Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Maroons, Toronto Arenas, Ottawa Senators, and Quebec Bulldogs. National Hockey Association disbands. In 1927, CFL Grey Cup Varsity Stadium, Toronto. Toronto Bellamy Beach defeated Hamilton Tigers 9-6 for the first of two championships. In 1941, amateur American tennis stars Bobby Riggs and Frank Kovacs turned professional after being suspended by the U.S. Lawn Tennis Association for undisclosed financial gain. In 1949, CFL Grey Cup Varsity Stadium, Toronto, Montreal Alouettes beat Calgary Stampeders 28-15 for their first championship. In 1954, Test cricket debut of Colin Cowdrey. In 1954, Test cricket debut of Colin Cowdrey versus Australia at Gabba. In 1955, 20th Iron Bowl, Auburn beats Alabama 26-0 in Birmingham. Also in 55, CFL Grey Cup, Empire Stadium, Vancouver Edmonton Eskimos retain championship with 34-19 win over Montreal Alouettes. In 1956, American weightlifter Charles Vinci wins bantamweight gold medal at the Melbourne Olympics with a world record of 3 lifts, snatch, clean, and jerk overhead press, total of 342.5 kilograms. In 1956 also, Australian sprinter Beatty Cuthbert wins the coveted 100-meter gold medal in 11.5 at the Melbourne Olympics. Takes sprint double winning 200-meter final 4 days later. And also in 56, Egil Danielsen of Norway sets a new world record throw of 85.71 meters to win men's javelin gold medal at the Melbourne Olympics. In 1956, USSR collects pairs scull rower Viktor Ivanov wins Olympic silver medal. In his excitement, he drops his medal, which sinks in Lake Wendover, Victoria, Australia, and is later recovered by a local teenager. Imagine your medal being dropped in a lake. Oh my God, that is the worst thing. In 1960, 25th Iron Bowl, Alabama beats Auburn 3-0 in Birmingham. Also in 1960, CFL Grey Cup, Empire Stadium, Vancouver. Ottawa Rough Riders defeat Edmonton Eskimos 16-6 for their 5th championship. The word Eskimos is not politically correct anymore, sad to say. Also in 1960, Minneapolis St. Paul Baseball Club takes the name Twins. In 1961, Pro Baseball Rules Committee votes 8-1 against legalizing the spitball. In 1963, 29th Heisman Trophy Award, Roger Staubach, Navy, Quebec. In 1963, also, Cincinnati Reds second baseman Pete Rose wins National League Rookie of the Year. In 1964, 29th Iron Bowl, Alabama beats Auburn 21-14 in Birmingham. In 1965, Dodgers second baseman Jim Lefebvre is voted NL Rookie of the Year. In 1966, CFL Grey Cup, Empire Stadium, Vancouver, Saskatchewan Rough Riders wins their first championship, defeat Ottawa 29-14. In 1968, 34th Heisman Trophy Award, O.J. Simpson, South Carolina. I wonder, did the glove fit? Just wondering. In 1969, 35th Heisman Trophy Award, Steve Owens, Oklahoma. In 1972, NFL New York Giant place kicker Pete Golak scores team record 8 points after touchdown in 62-10 win over Philadelphia Eagles at Yankee Stadium, New York City. In 1974, Greenwich scores 107 in second innings of Test cricket debut versus India. In 1975, Boston Red Sox center fielder Fred Lynn becomes the first rookie ever to be named American League MVP. In 1977, 42nd Iron Bowl, Alabama beats Auburn 48-21 in Birmingham. In 1978, CFL Grey Cup, CNE Stadium, Toronto, Edmonton Eskimos, first of 5 straight titles, beats Montreal Alouettes 20-13. In 1979, the National Olympics Committee votes to readmit China after 21 years. In 1980, Mike Schmidt is unanimous choice as National League MVP. In 1982, Clyde King named New York Yankee manager. Also in 82, Howard Cosell calls his last fight after being discussed by Larry Holmes, Tex Cobb mismatch. In 1984, after 518 goals in 14 years with Montreal Canadiens, Guy Lafleur retires abruptly. Also in 84, John W. Mercom Jr. announces New Orleans Saints are up for sale for $75 million. And then also in 84, Ken Hughes tearfully resigns as Australian cricket captain. In 1989, CFL Grey Cup Skydome, Toronto. Saskatchewan Roughriders defeat Hamilton Tiger Cats 43-40 on Dave Rigway's field goal winner was known as the kick. In 1990, Buffalo Bills from Sounds of the Lambs, if you get the reference. Buffalo Bills becomes the 6th first place NFL team to lose on the same weekend. In 1992, 57th Iron Bowl, Alabama beats Auburn 17-0 in Birmingham, Alabama. In 1955, Dolphins quarterback Dan Marino sets NFL record with 343rd touchdown pass. I have 2 words for him: laces out. In 1995, Federation Cup Women's Tennis. Valencia, Spain. Concha Martinez beats American Mary Jo Fernandez 6-3, 6-4 to give Spain an unassistible 3-0 lead, ends 3-2, and their 4th title. In 1996, baseball owners approved interleague play 26-4. In 1997, Washington Capitals final game at U.S. Air Arena retire Rod Legway's number 5. In 1999, Stevie Yzerman scores his 600th career goal. In the year 2000, CFL Grey Cup, McMahon Stadium, Calgary. BC Lions defeat Montreal Alouettes 28-26. Lions first team ever to finish with regular season record below .500 and win Grey Cup. In 2006, the last international rugby match before demolition of Dublin's famous Lansdowne Road Stadium in Ireland is Ireland's 61-17 win over the Pacific Islanders. In 2010, 75th Iron Bowl, Auburn beats Alabama 28-27 and in Tuscaloosa, if I mispronounced that correctly. In 2011, 76th Iron Bowl, Alabama beats Auburn 42-14 in Auburn. In 2017, British Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton finishes second in second-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at Yas Marina Circuit to claim his 4th F1 World Drivers' Championship, wins title by 46 points from Sebastian Vettel. Also in 2017, CFL Grey Cup, TD Place Stadium, Ottawa, Toronto Argonauts win 17th championship with 27-24 victory over Calgary Stampede. In 2018, Australian surfer Stephanie Gilmore is handed her record equaling 7th world title as American contender Lakey Peterson is a shock second round elimination at the season-ending Mary Pro in Hawaii. In 2023, Davis Cup tennis, Megala Spain, Jannik Sinner and Matteo Ardenelli win their singles matches to lead Italy to a 2-0 win over Australia and his second title. And in 2023 also, Dutch driver Max Verstappen confirms his third consecutive World F1 Drivers' Championship with his record 19th GP win over the season in Abu Dhabi. His Red Bull team retains Constructors' title. Those are all the things that in the events that happened in the world of sports for November the 26th. And I do believe it is about that time for the main event for episode number 48 of the Rock On Wild Show. And now that baseball has wrapped up just over a month ago, what a series it was. And I'm sure I will get to it, and I hope it's on this list as well. I was going through it briefly, and I thought I'd seen it there, so we will go over it. TSN, back in late October, put up an article when they ranked the best World Series matchups since the year 2000. So that's the main event topic. So let's go ahead and present, share screen, and let's go to this sports main event for the first time ever on the Rock Out Wild Show. And this is from David Schonenfield, published on October 22nd. Ranking the best World Series matchups since the year 2000. So it's covering 25 years here. We're going to skip the video. And here's a little bit of the introduction here from David here. Here's a hot take. We're going to have an epic World Series between the heavily favored LA Dodgers and the underdog Toronto Blue Jays, who, by the way, won more games than have home field advantage, which was true. They were the underdog in that series. And what a series it was. I'm sure I'll get to it. And at least we're due for one. None of the past 5 World Series went longer than 6 games, and none would be described as a classic or especially memorable World Series. We've had longer, no Game 7 droughts before, including 8 years in a row from 2003 to 2010. But after a stretch of 4 series going distance in 6 years from 2014 to 2019, we had grown to expect those drawn-out affairs. Here's hoping we get one. That we did. That one went the distance. So what do we have here? The biggest storyline this year was the Dodgers seeking to become the first repeat champion in 25 years that they did, riding their billion-dollar rotation and coming off Shohei Ohtani's great performance ever to wrap up the National League Championship Series. The Blue Jays are riding their hot bets of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and George Springer to make their first World Series since 1993. And it says here, in terms of World Series annals, it's a strong matchup. So let's rank all the World Series since 2000 to see where Dodgers Blue Jays fits in. This rank is based on hype, the quality of the teams, and their star power heading into the World Series. It's not a ranking of the quality of the World Series itself, although we're going to include a grade on that for each matchups. So let's get to it. Before I get to this, I have very, very, very little say in terms of these World Series matchups. So I'm going to let this article do most of the talking here. So coming in at number 26 on this list, from 2003, the Florida Marlins over the New York Yankees, 4-2. It says here the Yankees were back in the World Series for the 6th time in 8 years, while the Marlins had rebuilt after their fire sale following the World Series title in 1997. Trust me when I say nobody wanted the Yankees in the World Series yet again. That is true. Even I didn't like the Yankees back then. And the Marlins were merely a 91-win wildcard team. Most notably, however, both teams have spoiled the Ultimate World Series by knocking off the Cubs and Red Sox before either team had overcome its curse. In Game 7, in the LCS, in the actual series, David gave this a C. The Marlins won Game 4 in 12 innings when Yankees manager Joe Torre inexplicably failed to use reliever Mariano Rivera and the 23-year-old Josh Beckett tossed a 5-hit shutout in Game 6. Number 25 on this list, we have from 2023, a couple years ago, Texas Rangers over Arizona Diamondbacks 4-1. In an all wildcard series, the number 5 seeded Ranger had won 90 games, and the number 6 seeded Diamondbacks won only 84, marking this the lowest combined win total in World Series history. The Rangers were going for their first World Series title, so there was that, and there were some fun hitters. Corey Seager, the red-hot Adolis Garcia, who had just driven in 15 runs in the ALCS, and Corbin Carroll, but it was a soft matchup on paper. And David give this series a D-. The series turned on Seager's trying to two-run homer of Paul Seward's in the bottom of the ninth of Game 1, which Garcia then won with a home run in the 11th. There wasn't a single lead change after that, and 3 of those games were blowouts. Then we have at number 24 here from 2011, St. Louis Cardinals over Texas Rangers 4-3. This was Cardinals team that got hot in September and clinched a wild card spot on the final day of the season when the Braves blew a lead in the 9th inning and lost in extra innings. St. Louis certainly has star power with the likes of Albert Pujols, Lance Berkman, and Matt Holliday, but had won a World Series fairly recently in 2006, while the Rangers had just been there in the year before. And David gave this series an A. First 2 games were 1-run games, including the Rangers pulling out a victory with 2 runs in the 9th. In Game 3, Pujols blasted a record-tying 3 home runs. Game 6 was the David Freese game, perhaps the single most exciting baseball game ever played. And Game 7 was a bit of an anticlimactic 6-2 Cardinals win. Number 23 here, we have San Francisco Giants over Kansas City Royals 4-3. The second lowest combined win total in the World Series history featured 2 wildcard teams who won fewer than 90 games. That's interesting. The Royals were at least a good story in the playoffs for the first time since winning the World Series in 1985 and had gone 8-0 in the AL playoffs, including an epic win over the A's in the wild card game. The Giants, however, had just won the World Series in 2010 and 2012, and this team didn't seem nearly as good as those two. And he gave this series a B-. 5 of the games were blowouts, but it did at least go 7. It will be remembered for Madison Bumgarner's historic performance, a shutout in Game 5, the last complete game shutout in World Series history, and then 5 scoreless innings of relief in Game 7, getting Salvador Perez to pop out with the tying run on third to end it. And at number 22 here we have 2007 Boston Red Sox over Colorado Rockies 4-0, a clean sweep. It says here the Red Sox were only 3 years removed from breaking the curse of the Bambino in 2004. So although they were still a star-landing team with David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and scrappy rookie Dustin Pedroia, they were no longer as interesting. The Rockies were a fun story, winning 14 of the final 15 games, including beating the Padres in a tiebreaker, just to win a wildcard spot. Then they went 7-0 in the NL playoffs and had won 21 of 22 entering the World Series. He gave this one an F, a dud. 2 of the games were one-run games, but it does go down as one of the least memorable World Series of all time with a forgettable 4-game sweep. I'm surprised they made it on this list. Number 21, 2006 St. Louis Cardinals over Detroit Tigers, 4-1. Says here the Tigers were the story of the season. They had lost 119 games 3 years before and 91 just the previous year. With rookie starter Justin Verlander winning 17 games, they led the AL Central most of the season, only to lose the final 5 games and squeak into the playoffs as a wildcard team. The Cardinals won a weak NL Central with only 83 wins, although they at least had Pujols at his absolute peak. Both teams hadn't won a World Series in a couple of decades, 1982 for the Cardinals, 1984 for the Tigers. Plus, it did feature 2 of the original 16 franchises. He gave this one an F. The Cardinals won a game in the bottom of the 8th, but it was otherwise a blur of nothing, most characterized by several Tigers feeling misuses by their pitchers. David Exine won MVP honors without hitting a home run and driving in only 4 runs. Amazing. Now we're getting into the top 20 here. Number 20 from 2021, Atlanta Braves over the Houston Astros, 4-2. It says here the Braves were back in the World Series for the first time in 1999. They had made 12 playoff appearances in the intervening years without making it to the Fall Classic. Still, this was the weakest of the Atlanta playoff teams of recent vintage, winning only 88 games and missing Ronald Acuna Jr. for the playoffs. I have no idea who that is, by the way. The Astros, meanwhile, were back in the World Series for the 3rd time in 5 years, but the first time since the 2017 sign-stealing scandal had broken in November 2019. Let's just say not everyone wanted them there. David gave this series a D and says this was a weird World Series. The Braves ended up going with 2 bullpen games. Who remembers that Dylan Lee and Tucker Davidson started? After Charlie Morton broke his leg in Game 1, Astros starters kept getting knocked out early. The only starter to go more than 5 innings for either team was Max Fried in the finale. 4 of the games were blowouts. Number 19. This was in 2012. The San Francisco Giants won over the Detroit Tigers 4-0. The Giants were back after winning in 2010, while the Tigers were back for the first time since 2006, featuring Triple Crown winner Miguel Cabrera and a strong 1-2 punch in the rotation with Verlander and Max Scherzer. This was also the last World Series with the season's MVP winners, at least until Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani in 2024, with Cabrera and Buster Posey. And David gave this one a D-, a boring sweep. Pablo Sandoval did hit 3 home runs in Game 1, but there were 2 shutouts, and chilly weather in Detroit made the final 2 games unbearable. I could only imagine. I don't like cold weather. That's one thing I don't like, especially polar vortex weather. Number 18 on this list, in 2013, the Boston Red Sox over the St. Louis Cardinals, 4-2. This one did feature the 2 best teams from the regular season. Both won 97 games. The last time before this year we had that happened in a full season. It was also a classic original 16 matchup, although we had seen this in 2004. Plus, both teams had won recently, 2007 for Boston, 2011 for St. Louis. Both were veteran teams, with Ortiz leading the Red Sox, while the Cardinals featured 4 .300 hitters, plus Carlos Beltran, who hit .296 and led the team in home runs. And he gave this World Series a C+. Ortiz was absolutely locked in, hitting .688 and .760 and 1.188 with 2 home runs and 8 walks. The Cardinals were so scared of him by Game 6 that they intentionally walked him 3 times, with 2 of those helping lead to rallies and a 6-1 Red Sox victory in the final game. Number 17, we have the game in 2020. Los Angeles Dodgers over Tampa Bay Rays, 4-2. It says here this one could be number 25. It was during COVID after all, and it was played at a neutral site in a half-empty stadium for social distancing reasons. Those were the times, weren't they? COVID. But it was a great matchup between these teams with the best record in each league. Albeit over the shortened 60-game season, you had Mookie Betts and Clayton Kershaw and Randy Arozarena in the midst of one of the best individual postseasons ever, plus the small market Rays trying to beat the big market Dodgers. You gave this one a C+ here because teams were allowed an expanded roster of 28 players. There was a parade of relievers, but there were some fun games, including the bonkers ending to Game 4, and then Rays manager Kevin Cash's controversial decision to remove Blake Snell in Game 6, which backfired in a big way. Don't you love it when that happens? Number 16, from 2005, 20 years ago, Chicago White Sox over Houston Astros 4-0. Maybe this should rate higher. After all, at the time, the White Sox were trying to break a World Series drought going back to 1917, and the Astros, born in 1962, had never won. But the White Sox drought never had the same nationwide interest as the ones for the Cubs or Red Sox. Fair or not, and these weren't particularly interesting teams. The White Sox were very good. They won 99 games, but lacked star power with Paul Korinko, their biggest name. Frank Thomas was on the team that year, but played only 34 games and was injured for the playoffs. The Astros had Yankees transplants Roger Clemens and Andy Pettitte, but their 2 longtime stars, Jeff Bagwell and Craig Biggio, were at the end of their careers. Bagwell, in his final season, was relegated to DH and pinch hitting duties. We gave this one a C. It's hard to give a sweep a decent grade, but all 4 games were exciting, including Scott Podsedik's walk-off home run in Game 2 after not hitting a home run all season, and Jeff Blum's go-ahead run in the 14th inning to win Game 3. Number 15 from 2008, Philadelphia Phillies over Tampa Bay Rays 4-1. The Phillies were back in the World Series for the first time since 1993 and hadn't won since 1980. They featured a powerful offense with Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, and Pat Burrell. The Rays were maybe the unlikeliest World Series team ever. In their 10 previous years of existence, they had not only never had a win in the season, but had lost at least 90 games in each one. They won 97 games that year behind rookie Evan Longoria and power-hitting first baseman Carlos Pena, with speedsters Carl Crawford and B.J. Upton in the outfield. David gave this one a D+. 3 games were decided by 1 run, but it was pretty uneventful World Series. The lasting memory is the cold and rainy Philly, again the cold, that forced the mid-game postponement of Game 5, the only time that has happened in World Series history. The game was suspended in the 6th inning and resumed 2 days later. Yeesh, that's the only time that ever happened. They'll probably never do that ever again. Number 14, from the year 2000, when we will make it up to you. New York Yankees over the New York Mets, 4-1. A subway match. A subway series, as it calls. The first since the Yankees and Brooklyn Dodgers met in 1956. Was certainly fun for the Big Apple. Less fun for the rest of the country. It drew the worst TV ratings at the time. The Yankees were going for a third straight World Series and had officially become the evil empire by that point. To make it even worse, they weren't even that good that season, winning only 87 games. The Mets were back in the World Series for the first time since '86. There was certainly plenty of star power all around with the likes of Derek Jeter, Roger Clemens, and Mike Piazza. He gave this one a C+. It was a tight 5-5 game series with all games decided by 2 runs or fewer. The turning point was the bottom of the ninth of Game 1, when the Yankees tied off Hernando Bennett's and went on to win 12 innings. Game 2 featured the infamous Clemens Piazza bat throwing incident, and the Yankees won the clincher with 2 runs in the ninth off a tired Al Leiter. What do we have here? Number 13, we have the World Series 3 years ago. Houston Astros over Philadelphia Phillies, 4-2. I know, the Astros again. Boo. But this was an absolute powerhouse of a team with 106 wins and stars such as Jordan Alvarez and Verlander, plus the only standbys Jose Altuve and Alex Brigman. The Phillies, meanwhile, snuck in a wildcard team for the first playoff trip since 2011, but were an immensely entertaining team with Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, and company, as well as a rabid fan base cheering them on. And he gave this one a C. The Phillies won 6-5 in Game 1 on JT Realmuto's home run in the 10th inning. They took a 2-1 series lead, but the bats died. Their bats actually died. Astros pitchers tossed a combined no-hitter to even the series, and Houston won the final 2 games, 3-2 and 4-1, with Alvarez's 3-run blast in Game 6, the deciding blow. Number 12, 2015, Kansas City Royals over New York Mets, 4-1. The Royals proved their 2014 World Series appearance was no fluke, winning 95 games with a better team that included trade deadline additions Ben Zobrist and Johnny Cueto. The Mets won the NL East behind a young, powerful rotation that featured Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, and Jacob deGrom. It was a fun matchup of teams trying to avoid lengthy title droughts. 30 years for the Royals and 29 for the Mets. And he gave this one a C+. It only went 5 games, but the Royals won the opener in 14 innings. 14 innings! And won Game 5 with a 3-run 8th inning, and then won the clincher in 12 innings. After Mets manager Terry Collins' ill-fated decision to leave in Harvey to start the ninth with a 2-0 lead. Number 11, the runner-up here for the top 10 portion. San Francisco Giants over the Texas Rangers, 4-1 in 2010. This was a super entertaining showdown at the time. The Giants had yet to win a World Series in San Francisco and featured Tim Lincoln, the freak for his small stature and overpowering stature, and 2 rookies named Posey and Bumgarner. Write that one down. The Rangers had never won a championship and featured AL MVP Josh Hamilton and veteran DH Vladimir Guerrero. Both teams had pulled off upsets in the LCS, with the Giants beating the Phillies and the Rangers beating the Yankees. He gave this one a D. Meh. The Giants won the opener in a blowout, and the Rangers made 4 errors and then tossed shutouts in Game 2 and 4. You can test Giants fans by asking them who won the World Series MVP honors that year. Answer, Edgar Renteria. Number 10. Washington Nationals over the Houston Nationals, 4-3 in 2019. Remember, this happened before the sign stealing scandal changed how we view this era of the Astros. They have won 107 games behind the pitching duo over Verlander and Garrett Cole, and 4 players who mashed 30-plus home runs, which didn't even include Alvarez, a rookie that year. The Nationals were a wildcard team that had overcome a 1931 series start to win 93 games and featured a starting pitcher trio of Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin, and 20-year-old sensation Juan Soto, who hit 34 home runs. Gave this one a B minus. It won 7 games. The road team would win all 7. Although 5 of the games weren't close, the best games says the best game was the last one. The Nationals went ahead 3-2 in the 7th inning on Anthony Redden's home run, and then Howie Kendrick's go-ahead home run just inside the right field foul pole. Number 9, the latest from 2025. LA Dodgers, Toronto Blue Jays. Last year in the World Series, we had Ohtani versus Aaron Judge. This year, we had Ohtani versus Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who is perhaps on his way to an all-time postseason after hitting .442 with 6 home runs through the first 2 rounds. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts stirred things up after the NLCS when he said during the post-celebration, "Let's go for more wins and really ruin baseball," in reference to critics saying the Dodgers are ruining baseball with their high payroll. But we also get the vaunted Dodgers rotation and its ability to miss bats against the best in the business contact ability of the Blue Jays. What did I think about this series? It was absolutely fantastic, and that last game really stressed me out. That last game went 12 innings, and then LA Dodgers won the World Series. There was one game in particular. I can't remember exactly which game it was. It might have been game 5 or 6 or 4. I'm not sure exactly which, but there was one game that went 12 went from like 12, not 12, like 18 innings it was. There was one particular game that went 18 innings. The game started at 9:30 my time and it ended at like 4:30 in the morning. That's like 2 games into one. Yeah, there was a game that lasted 18 innings in that series. Holy crap. Probably, I don't know if it's the longest baseball game ever, but it has to be up there. It really has to be. Let's move on here. Number 8 from 2002. Anaheim Angels over San Francisco Giants, 4-3. The Angels, who joined the majors in 1961, were making the first World Series appearance, while the Giants in the Bay Arena since 1958 were trying to win their first title since moving from New York. You had Barry Bonds at the height of his unstoppable powers and trying to erase his own postseason demons, while the Angels had a load-up lineup. Troy Glaus, Tim Selman, Garrett Anderson, and the Rally Monkey, and those defeating Thunder Sticks. Let us pray they never return. He gave this one an A. Bonds was a beast, hitting .471, .700, and 1.294, but it wasn't enough. The series featured 4 one-run games, including a wild card 11-0 contest in the Classic Game 6, when the Angels rallied late from a 5-0 deficit to win 6-5. Game 7 was a drab 4-1 contest, and Bonds went a harmless 1 for -3. Or, well, 1 for 3. Number 7, 2009, New York Yankees over Philadelphia Phillies, 4-2. The Yankees had missed the playoffs in 2008 for the first time since 1993. So they went out and signed free agents CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira, and AJ Burnett to add to an already stacked roster that included Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, Robinson Cano, uh, Hikadili, Matsui, Jose Posada, and Johnny Damian. Yeah, that was to steal the evil empire. The Phillies tried to defend their title, had traded for Cliff Lee, and then signed Pedro Martinez in July to bolster their rotation. David gave this one a C. Could have been a classic battle, but there were no one-run games in Game 6. Martinez's final start of his career was over early. The crucial contest was Game 4 when the Yankees scored 3 runs in the ninth over Phillies closer Brad Lidge to win 7-4. Number 6, we're getting through it. We are getting through this main event here. 2001 World Series, Arizona Diamondbacks over New York Yankees 4-3. This one presented conflicting emotions. The Yankees were going for an unthinkable 4th straight title, but in the wake of 9/11, there was a win for New York. And there was a win for New York angle that the Yankees had never encountered. The Diamondbacks, meanwhile, had the big bad duo of Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling, with Schilling when asked on the eve of the World Series about the Yankees' Mystique and Aurora, giving one of the greatest quips in World Series history. Mystique and Aurora, those are dancers in a nightclub. Good one. The Diamondbacks were not going to be imitated. We gave this one an A+ for one-run games, including 3 of the most memorable World Series moments ever. Jeter's Mr. November home run win for Game 4. Scott Broskus walk-off home run to win Game 5, and then Luis Gonzalez loop single to beat the invincible Mariano Rivera in Game 7. Number 5, World Series in 2018. Boston Red Sox over the Los Angeles Dodgers 4-1. 2 of baseball's most historic franchises had never met in a World Series, creating the classic showdown with games in Fenway Park and Dodger Stadium. It doesn't get any better than that. The Red Sox were a 108 win powerhouse with American League MVP Mookie Betts leading the way, backed up by J.D. Martinez, who hit .330 with 43 home runs that season. Chris Sale and David Price headlined the rotation. The Dodgers actually had a bit of a down year with 92 wins, but they also weren't lacking in big names with Manny Machado, a trade deadline acquisition, Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, Cody Bellinger, and Justin Turner, with Kershaw and rookie Walter Buehler on the pitching side. He gave this one a C-. A letdown. The first 2 games in Fenway were cold and windy, again with the cold. Game 3 was an 18-inner affair. Oh my God, I just mentioned that for number 9 earlier. Longest in World Series history. So it's tied with number 9. Awesome, I love it. But was more of a slog than a game to remember. Game 4 was the best of the series as the Red Sox rallied with 9 runs over the final 3 innings to win 9-6. We got 4 left here. Number 4, 2017, Houston Astros over the Los Angeles Dodgers 4-3. This series had it all. Dominant teams, long World Series title droughts, and superstars galore. We didn't know at the time that both franchises were just kicking off 100-win dynasties, let alone what the Astros were doing behind the scenes. But the anticipation level was off the charts for the first matchup of 100-win teams in the World Series since 1970. David gave this one an A. Game 1, with a start time temperature of 103 degrees at Dodger Stadium, damn that's hot, was a Kershaw 11 strikeout gem. The Astros tied Game 2 in the ninth of Marwin Gonzalez home run off Kenley Jensen. Both teams scored twice in the 10th. The Astros scored twice in the 11th on George Springer's home run and held for a 7-6 win. Game 4 featured a 5-run rally in the 9th by the Dodgers to win. Game 5 was completely bananas, with the Astros finally winning 13-12 in 10 innings. And Game 7 was a letdown, though, and the Astros won 5-1 the snoozer, in which they scored 5 runs off Darvish in the first 2 innings. Number 3, 2024, last year's New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers. As mentioned, what's not to like, aside from Ohtani's and Judge, each playing in the final World Series and trying to put a final stamp on their legacy-defining seasons. We have Juan Soto and Mookie Betts, a suddenly rejuvenated Giancarlo Stanton, and a hobbled Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman, only raising the drama if he hits well. Garrett Cole and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Aside from the history between the clubs, we have both clubs needing to rewrite their recent history. The Yankees back in the World Series for the first time since 2009, and the Dodgers trying to add more legitimate championships to the one they won in the COVID-shortened season. He gave this one a C+. The Judge O'Shaughnessy Showdown was a flop, and Judge hit .222 with 1 home run, and Otani hit .105 without a home run or RBI. The series also went just 5 games, with the Dodgers winning their first 3. The series did produce 2 forever moments, however. Freddie Freeman's walk-off, Kirk Gibson's grand slam in Game 1, and the Yankees' 5th inning defensive meltdown in Game 5. We got 2 more left. Number 2, the Boston Red Sox over the St. Louis Cardinals, 4-0 in the year 2004. Even I remember this. The Red Sox were coming off their never-done-before comeback from down 3-0 to beat the Yankees in the ALCS, and still had to beat a 105-win Cardinals team that featured Pujols, Jim Edmonds, and Scott Rowland, plus in-season pickup Larry Walker, who had an OPS over .1.000 that year. The Red Sox had their own ridiculous lineup with Ortiz, Ramirez, and Damian, plus a rotation with Schilling and Martinez. It seems inevitable now that Boston was going to win, but that wasn't the case at the time, so the build-up was intense. And the actual World Series was a D? And he gave this a D, a blah. I mean, Red Sox fans will rightfully call it the best World Series ever, but after a sloppy 11-9 Game 1, played in a drizzle at Fenway, the Cardinals never led again. Well, that's his take, and I know some people in Boston will probably say otherwise because they won that year, and rightfully so. And the number 1 best World Series year is 2016, according to this article from TSN. It is the Chicago Cubs over the Cleveland Indians at the time. Actually, I don't know if they were Indians or the name that they are now in 2016. That I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Anyway, Chicago Cubs won 4-3. The Cubs had not only won since 1908. Not only won since 1908. That is insane. But they hadn't even been in a World Series since 1945. That's almost as bad as the Maple Leafs in hockey. Almost as bad. The Guardians, that's who they are, the Guardians. The Guardians, meanwhile, had the second longest drought of the original 16 teams without a title since 1948. That was also enough right there to build up the anticipation. But this also rates high because it was 2 good teams. Chicago won 104 games, while Cleveland won 94. Cubs third baseman Chris Bryant won MVP honors that year, and Cleveland was led by 18-game winner Corey Klubser and young rising stars Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez. He gave this one a B. The first 6 games weren't anything too special, but Game 7 was one of the greatest in World Series history. Cleveland tied on Rajah Davis' 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th. The Cubs scored twice in the 10th, following a stress-filled rain delay and escaped with an 8-7 curse-ending win when Cleveland had to bat little-used Michael Martinez with its season on the line. So that's the number one of the best World Series matchups in the past 25 years. Chicago Cubs over Cleveland Indians, 4-3 in 2016. That was the main event for this very episode. And this has been episode 48 of the Rock Out Wild Show. I'm going to leave you all with a quote, and it goes something like this. Tomorrow is a mystery, and that what makes life exciting. What we know for sure is that today belongs to us. Let go of anger, self-doubt, and regrets about the past. Stop worrying about what might happen next. Choose love instead. Love yourself, your friends, and your family with your whole heart. Enjoy the simple, joyful moments happening right now. Don't wait for another day to start living. Make today the one that counts. And remember, you don't need approval from people who don't understand your journey. Celebrate life with those who truly matter. I am your host, Just Mike, and this has been episode number 48 of the Rock Out Wild Show. And on a final note, to all of you watching and listening to this all around the world, get plenty of rest. And always do your best.